Welcome to Beyond the Beat, your go-to source for insider knowledge on fantasy football. Hosted by Zach Hyduke and Matt Olson. We bring you straight to the action with exclusive interviews from NFL beat writers, draft experts, and film gurus. Get the news from the field, straight from the sources at training camp and beyond. This is where fantasy wins are made.
I gotta unmute myself there if we're gonna talk, huh? Welcome in, everybody, to Beyond the Beat with 32 Beat Writers. My name is Zach Hyduke, and today it is just me. I hope you all had a great Halloween. I almost said Thanksgiving. Hope you ate or are currently eating a lot of candy. For those of you who aren't watching college football or whatever, welcome in to the show here. I'm just going to be pretty quick today. We're going to talk through just a couple of the injury updates that we had now that it's late on Friday, and we can make sure that we have a good beat on what may be happening around the league. I'm going to try to hit as many of those as reasonably that we can. I hope, like I said, you all had a good Halloween. Man, I almost said Thanksgiving there. We just had some people over at our house personally, and didn't really go out or anything. We've got the 1-year-old now, and he likes seeing people come to the door and saying hi to them and handing out candy and stuff. So I don't know what you all did. Hopefully stayed out of trouble. But I hope it was a good evening for you. It certainly was not a good evening yesterday for Malachi Corley. And I'm sure that at this point, you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but man, making a mistake like that, bro, at the goal line there. If you didn't see it, definitely look up the play. You can find the play on our X profile there, but just, man, dropping the ball, not at the 1-yard line, at like the goal line, and getting that ruled as a touchback instead of getting your first NFL touchdown. That is a bad beat. But I think the more interesting thing here is, CJ Stroud. I think that he's a guy that a lot of people were drafting highly. And at this point in the year, you were probably already not happy with where he was at. And I understand that the defense for the Jets, I mean, it's honestly in some ways been up and down. I mean, they let the Patriots win last week for what it's worth. So that being the case, man, I'm really curious to see how he does the rest of the season. You got Detroit next week. And this performance against the Jets, 11.5 points, 0 touchdowns scored, 11 for 30 for 191. I mean, that's an Anthony Richardson stat line almost. No picks, but yeah. So he was drafted at quarterback 5 in most places in ADP at least, and right now it's somewhere around the quarterback 15. We'll see where he finishes, of course, on the week here once we get through the Sunday games. But just really, really, really disappointing. One thing to consider is their guard, Kenyon Green, now is out for the season, or if not out for the season, at least for 4 weeks. Indefinitely was the word that was used there. And last night he was pressured at a 46% rate, and that pretty obviously had an effect on him. So I know that this probably sounds like, well, of course, this would be the case for any quarterback. But I think if you get some pressure on him and you play man defense, I think it's a little bit more difficult for CJ Stroud in the second year. It's just a reminder that, you see a lot of successful guys, and it can be difficult once teams get some tape and some time to prepare for you, and they know that you're the guy that they need to pay attention to. You're not a rookie anymore, hoping that you make a rookie mistake. So the takeaway here, I don't know that we should freak out long term, but that's coming from a perspective where I kind of wasn't putting him in that top echelon of at least fantasy quarterbacks for a while, just because he doesn't have the huge rushing upside that a lot of the people he was being drafted around do. Last night, of course, he did have 59 rushing yards, but that's the highest he has on the season. Probably highest for a lot of quarterbacks, but not drafted top 5. -10 last week. So, sack yardage there. 19 the week before, 7, 27, 17, 12, -1, 13. So you just don't get that. So if he's not throwing for, 2-3 touchdowns at least, you're having a rough game there. So something to note, lesson learned there, and I guess we'll move on from that. Let's go ahead and check in real quick with a couple of players that we had some injury updates on. T. Higgins had a full week of do not practice. I believe he may have even been declared out. So he's not going to be playing. Zach Moss as well, doubtful there. So start your Jamar Chase. Derek Carr is going to play. I believe, of course, that should make the Saints a more viable offense this week. That situation with Chris Olave, though, man, we've seen Garrett Wilson now come around with some better quarterback play. So hopefully we can see some more consistency there. Jordan Love, questionable with that groin injury. The fact that he's questionable at this point in the week, and I haven't heard too much, makes me feel like it is going to be a go for Jordan Love. Tyrone Tracy has cleared the concussion protocol, running back for the Giants, and so he should be into play. DK Metcalf, however, is out, so you can't play him. I do believe that probably means you can play JSN if you weren't already. At least flex him as well as potentially Tyler Lockett, but that's a little bit of a desperation play. Tajay Spears as well is out, so I believe Tony Pollard should be good to go. If you really, really, really need a play against a bad Patriots rush defense, you can do it. Pretty grody, though. Kareem Hunt, good to go. I expect him to be pretty good this week. Puka Nacua, though, here's the concerning injury. Popped up again. You probably saw this on our timeline now. But Sarah Barsop of ESPN NFL Nation and Jordan Rodriguez, of course, reporting on this for us. But the Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua left practice yesterday early with a knee injury. It was the same knee that was injured previously this year. And, okay. I don't know how I missed that Tony Pollard news. Thank you, Gogo. I'm going to have to check back in on Tony Pollard, but it looks like he might not be going this week. Thanks for letting me know. But back to Puka Nacua here. The Rams said, it was the same knee that he had injured. And earlier today, Sean McVay said that he wouldn't bet against Puka Nacua playing. But I don't know that means he necessarily will. So pay attention to the game time decision that's likely there. And Sean McVay, he says a lot of things. So one thing everybody did need to chill out about, my goodness, is Drake May. That was not Drake May, forgive me, Lamar Jackson. We heard early, I believe it was Wednesday, that he was taking a rest day from head coach John Harbaugh. And then later in the afternoon, the national inside reporters said that, he was held out with a knee and a back injury. I believe that was just from the injury report. And everybody just started freaking out. So today, of course, what do you know? He's fine. And it's, of course, reported again, as we knew on Wednesday, that it was just rest. So don't worry about him. He's going to be totally fine. We might see Jonathan Brooks this weekend, but it is unlikely. The team must decide by this coming Wednesday if they will play him this year, or I believe he would be out for the season if they don't make that decision by this coming Wednesday. So it is a pretty big deal. But per David, I'm missing the last name there. Newton, I believe, Dave Newton of ESPN NFL Nation. Per head coach Dave Canales, he expects both Jonathan Brooks and Adam Thielen to play next week in Germany against the Giants. So I'm excited about that. I will be interested to see if in Germany, it will depend on if Dalton, I suppose, is playing at that point. The Giants don't have the worst defense in the league. And in a lot of ways, they're probably underrated because just as a team in general, we kind of consider them to be a little bit of a joke in some ways. But I wouldn't say it would be an easy game necessarily. especially on the road, especially if Bryce Young is playing. But if Bryce Young is playing, and heck, honestly, even if Andy Dalton is playing, I wouldn't be shocked if they try to lean on the run game. Now, most likely that means Chuba Hubbard, assuming he's still healthy at that point. And they're going to ease Brooks in. I mean, every conversation and every move that they've made so far has been towards caution when it comes to Jonathan Brooks. But, they're going to need to see him and see what he can do and add to the team. And he was a very highly selected pick. So, if he's not utilized this year in a reasonably large fashion, at least, within a week or 2, 3 at the latest, it stinks that it's been so long. And I was wrong on that. I was really anticipating him being back earlier than this. So it is a bit frustrating, but you might be able to get to see what he can do in Germany. And I don't know if I'd suggest playing him necessarily, but it might be an opportunity for him to show a little bit of what he can do. Drake May was out with a concussion, of course, from early in last week's game. It looks to me that he might be playing based on the conversations that the media, specifically Phil Perry and anybody else who's been present there, have been having with head coach Jerod Mayo. The way that Mayo was phrasing things made me feel like we're going to see Drake May this Sunday. They really want to play him. Of course, this is all, the concussion protocol is not something that they can really manipulate, at least as far as we know, and I wouldn't expect that team to do that. But I feel good about it based on his limited participation and the phrasing that Jerod Mayo used in the press conferences there. TJ Hawkinson also looks to finally be back, and we'll talk more about him in a second. But really quickly, let's play a quick message from our sponsor.
The NFL season is underway, and if you drafted on Fast Draft this summer, the Origins All-Rookie game, the Flex 4 game, check the live scoring, see where you are in the standings. You might be in line for a big payday. And no matter where you are in the world, you should have the Fast Draft app, because there's a custom Dynasty mock tool that's free to everybody with super sharp ADPs, and we're rolling out DFS tournaments throughout the year, and the 2025 tournaments will go live before any of us realize, oh my God, the 2025 season is upon us. Download Fast Draft, register, and you will be alerted as soon as these new contests are unleashed. Check it out on fastdraft.app.
All right, so correction there. Tony Pollard definitely did not practice at all this week, and he is officially listed as questionable from what I'm looking at here. I apologize for misspeaking there. Not sure how I missed that, so thank you for reminding me. I'm just going to go through real quick a couple starts of the week that I have, and then we're going to get out of here. Super short stream today, but it's Friday night, and I want to give you guys something more to do than just look at my my face on a Friday evening. But Bo Nix, my start of the week at the quarterback position. I got to come up with a good name for the segment. Everybody who starts of the week. So if you got any suggestions, let me know. We're going to go with Bo Nix. He's been really good of late. Quarterback 2 last week. And, this week he plays an oddly bad Baltimore Ravens secondary and defense, at least so far as a fantasy production is concerned. I think in general, they're actually a pretty decent defense. And last week, rather, there was a couple of dropped interceptions that they could have had against Jameis Winston. But that being said, I expect Nix to keep his rushing upside, of course, weekly. That's been showing pretty well. And even without that, he should have a reasonably good game against a Baltimore defense that has not been super great. We heard from Cody Rourke a few weeks ago, and I'm glad that we did, because he kind of convinced me, like, hey, you know what? This probably isn't just a Fugazi. It is him being real. I really doubted Bo Nix a good bit coming into the league, and he's done a great job of proving me wrong so far, and that's been great. So feel like starting him up over a lot of guys here. At running back, I'm going to go with Nick Chubb. Now, this probably sounds and feels risky after a performance last week that you're like, man, are you really going to go with that guy? But this week he faces a Chargers defense that, while they kind of are good against the run, at least based on what you look at from the season, they haven't really played a phenomenal rush team. In fact, the best, at least from my estimation, is that they played probably is against James Conner in Arizona, maybe. Although I think he may have even gotten injured that game. I'd have to go back and look. So how can I start a guy who was 16 for 52 and no scores, and so far on the year, has had 5 targets between the 2 games? Well, I just think that he's really good. He had some of the best metrics of any running back against the Ravens last week. And while the Ravens are bad against the pass, they are great against the rush. So of any running back who's faced them this year, he had the best metrics. So I'm going to be going with Nick Chubb at my running back start of the week. For wide receiver, we're going to go with DeAndre Hopkins. I was really down on him last week going to the Chiefs in week 1. Just the way that the Chiefs game plan, he caught a pretty critical first down for them to start the, I think maybe first drive. But going from there, I feel like you can only scheme a guy in so much when you only have a week. And Andy Reid strikes me as a guy and typically goes with a lot of different game plans on a weekly basis. So, after only 3 targets and a limited usage, I'm good with him going and probably having a much bigger role against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers give up the 7th most points to the wide receiver position as well. Of course, some context in that is that they were also fairly good at scoring points and may not be quite as well against the Chiefs. But in general, I feel really good about that, and I am looking forward to see what DeAndre Hopkins can do this week. At tight end, we're going to go with the back from injury, TJ Hawkinson. I could not find this again, but from my understanding, he's not on a snap count. I have to fact check up myself a little bit on that, but I couldn't find it again anywhere, but I swear I saw that. He hasn't played a game all season. Of course, this will be his first game back, but there's no injury designation for him coming back into the game, and I feel really, really good about that. There's a decent chance that this is a relatively competitive game with Joe Flacco starting for the Colts this week. So I'm assuming they're going to need to at least be balanced in the pass game, and Hawkinson should help open that up, in my opinion. So my starts of the week are a rookie quarterback, 2 guys coming off of major injuries, and a old busted wide receiver who happens to play for Patrick Mahomes. So Bo Nix, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Hopkins, and TJ Hawkinson are my guys this week. We will check in on how that went when we get back this coming week. Thank you guys for, just hopping in here with me, hearing what I had to say for a little bit. Make sure to check out the website if you can, but keep up with us, especially on X and Twitter, where you might be watching this anyways. You can find us at 32 Beat Writers. That's at 32 Beat Writers. If you do check out the website at 32beatwriters.com, go ahead and use code podcast for 50% off your first month of pro membership. I'm going to be bringing a lot more stuff to you guys there, like I said, in the next little while. So please be on the lookout for that. But until next time, I will see you then.
Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Beat with Zach Hyduke and Matt Olson. For more expert analysis and exclusive insights from the best in the game, don't forget to subscribe and stay ahead of the competition. Until next time, keep turning that insider knowledge into fantasy football wins.